thoughts? How did it go?
I think the lesson went well overall, but it was a little bit different. DJ wasn't as enthusiastic and excited as he had been, and at one point he wasn't feeling very well. He was a little more doubtful of his skills. Mm-hmm. So I think it was a little more challenging for me as a teacher. But despite all that, I think the actual teaching and learning went well because he was able to demonstrate the skills we were practicing. He met goals. So I think that went well.
Okay. So I heard you say that he was doubtful about his skills. What kinds of behaviors did he display that made you notice that?
He said, "I can't," which I've never heard from him before.
Okay.
And at which point I, kind of coached him through, we always can. We just sometimes need help. We'll work together. Mm-hmm. So we kind of moved on from there. Mm-hmm. But he just wasn't as confident as he normally is. He's usually fairly charismatic and confident. And today I didn't see that.
Okay. So what did you do as a teacher to try to turn that lack of confidence around?
I tried to really highlight what he was doing well. And I also tried to take some of the frustration out. So when he had really good thoughts but couldn't figure out how to write them, I just scribed them for him. Because the purpose wasn't to write them down. It was to generate these thoughts. Right. So he was doing really good thinking and things like that and hard work in his head. So I just took away the stressful part of writing it, which normally isn't stressful for him, but today it just seemed to be. So I had him shout out things while he was reading, like, shout out what you're thinking and I'll write it down, instead of him stopping to write it down.
So since he displayed these characteristics that you hadn't seen recently, did you have to stray from your lesson plan at all?
The main stray was me writing instead of him writing.
Okay.
That was the big difference.
Right.
And the other thing with the lesson is that we didn't get to the writing portion of the lesson. Because of the difficulty with the word work and the comprehension, it all took a little longer than anticipated. So we didn't get to the writing portion, which after his struggles today with writing things down, I thought it may not be a bad thing to give him a break from it for one day because it's not his biggest weakness. Right. But then he was disappointed that we didn't get to the writing portion. He actually expressed, I said, all right, well, we're finished. And he's like, we didn't get to write? Like, well, not today. We didn't have time. And he was disappointed, so I took that as an opportunity to ask him why. And I think he's really interested in the Facebook page we're creating for Thomas Edison, so it's a really thrilling experience for him. Right. And it's also interesting because he told me earlier in the lesson when I gave him a choice to write in paper or on the computer, he chose paper because he said he's not good at typing. Right. So when I talked to him about, we'll do the writing activity tomorrow, would you like to handwrite it or use the computer? I was expecting him to say handwrite it because of the difficulty typing, but he said use the computer. So he threw me for a loop there. Right. And so I asked him why, and he said, well, because when I handwrite, I make mistakes and it looks messy with eraser marks. On the computer, you can backspace. So I think my perception of what he's saying is like, because we're doing a finished piece to share, he wants it like fancy to look nice.
Right. Yeah, so that's great.
He has a great sense of how things look when they're published.
Organization, right. Good. So he's exploring that part of the writing process with you, and he's getting to that publishing point. So hopefully he'll be really proud of that project.
That's why I wasn't too stressed with not getting to the writing portion of the lesson, because he really does have a good grasp on it. Right. I'm doing it just to try and have him pull out. We're actually extending the writing and reading into writing. We're writing about what we've read. So the main goal there is for him to be using things from the text. It's really, again, about the thinking.
Right. Did you notice any differences between his writing ability and his on paper and his writing ability on the computer? Or did they match?
They were fairly similar. It's a little slow on the computer because he hunts and pecks to type. But other than that, he seems to be able to write the same. We've been writing shorter things so far. So today, and actually now tomorrow, we'll be doing a full paragraph, where before we were doing like the wall posts, so they're a sentence or two. Okay. His About Me section of the Facebook, so where he was born and things like that, so they're fragments. So I was really looking to see him put it together into paragraph form. So that'll take place tomorrow now. Great. And that's when it'll really show me the difference. That's a good point for me to look for tomorrow.
Okay. So today's lesson, it sounds like you got some insight into technology as a motivating tool for him. So how do you plan to continue to use technology for the rest of our few sessions that we have left?
We're actually going to finish up and publish his Facebook page. So he's going to, he'll do the last portion, the paragraph about Edison, which is a short paragraph about his work and schooling. And then he's actually going to write about the author, about himself, because the historical Facebook page template has a spare spot at the side, and I thought it'd be good for him to tell about the person that made this Facebook page, like authors do with books,
right?
To make that connection between text and technology.
Great. Okay, so the data that I collected for you was prompting that you gave him as he was reading on his own, generating questions, and it was marked, if your prompt led him to his own thinking, I marked it with an L, and if it didn't lead him to his own thinking, I marked it with a D. So what do you notice about this data? There's 2 pages worth.
Looking at it, because I looked at it before we began, I did notice more of them led to progress than didn't. But there were definitely a few that did not. The ones that stood out to me, could you generate a question from what you just read? He kind of just was like, no. He definitely wasn't quite there yet, and that was telling to me, and I picked up on it even within the lesson, that I had to model. Even though we had done it during the before reading, we were with a new text, and I think he needed me to bridge that gap for him. So that was really telling there, because once I modeled and gave a little bit more support, then it kind of got him unstuck. So that was good. I
also noticed that on the video. So you are noticing different things compared from the ones that led him to the ones that didn't. Is there certain wording that you think, or was it more of the physical modeling?
I think some of the ones that led him to where I was trying to get him to go to make his own questioning were more specific. So that shows me he still needs a little bit of a higher level of support than he would to be independent with this skill. So it tells me that I should continue with this and, continue modeling and helping him and pull away support a little bit at a time until he's able to do it independently. Because the data clearly shows me that he's not quite there yet, which we just started this today, so I didn't expect him to be independent today. I expected him to start to get it, which by the end of the lesson, he really was starting to get it. So that definitely helps.
And what makes you say that he was starting to get it at the end based on the data?
There were, towards the beginning, there were more D's, doesn't lead to his own, and then towards the end there were more L's that my prompts would lead to his own thinking, and some of them were fairly general, some were more specific, but they were more likely to lead to his own thinking after that.
Great. So, how long do you expect to continue with this skill? Do you expect to?
I expect to finish out the rest of our tutoring with it. Okay. So probably, Wednesday and Thursday we'll be focusing on this. I hope to see by Thursday a little bit more independence with it.
Good. Okay, so is there anything else I can do as your coach? Is this data helpful to you? Do you need anything else from me?
I think the data was incredibly helpful with the coding. It really helped me look back and think about, did it lead him somewhere, did it not? Because just looking at the question, it's hard to remember all of the talking that we did during the lesson, but this definitely helped me analyze which kinds of questions were most helpful to him and to see his independence start to kick in.
Right, and I think it's interesting as your coach that you have me code your questions, and then what do you have him do in your questioning lessons?
We're coding. I think it's really helpful. To code things helps you think about them in a different way.
Right. Okay. Right. Sounds good.